Welcome to Redacted Reality. If the allure of the shadowy, cryptic, and mystical tales captivate you, then please subscribe and hang around. Chapter 7: Whispers in the Archive.
The room was dim, illuminated by only the weak glow of a dusty desk lamp. Piles of documents and yellowed maps were strewn across the long oak table, their edges curling with age. The walls of the archive closed in around them, stacked high with musty tomes and the faint scent of mildew clinging to the air. Thick silence hung in the room, broken only by the occasional rustle of paper as Sarah flipped through the brittle pages of an old journal. Okay, this is weird, Marcus muttered from his spot across the table. Leaning back in his chair with his arms crossed, he watched Sarah like a hawk as she skimmed the text with her laser focus, her brow furrowed in frustration. "We've been digging through this junk for hours, and you've barely said a word. Care to share with the class, Professor?" Sarah shot him a sharp look. "This," she said curtly, holding up the journal without looking at him, "is not junk. It's a primary source. A first-hand account from the Black Powder Tavern during the Revolutionary War. We're going to understand Miranda and her connection to that house. It's gonna start with something like this." Lily, perched on a stool near the wall, absently spun an old brass compass she had snagged from one of the boxes. "She's a fountain of fun facts, isn't she?" she said dryly, glancing between Marcus and Sarah. "But I'm with him. If you've got something, now's a good time to say it, before the cobwebs take over." Sarah sighed, exasperated, and snapped the journal closed. The loud crack of the cover echoed in the small room, making Lily flinch slightly. "It's not just something, it's a lot of somethings," Sarah admitted, her tone edged with reluctant admiration. She held the journal out, tapping the faded handwriting scrawled across the pages. "This belonged to Jasper Doyle, Nick's ancestor. It confirms he was a regular at the Black Powder Tavern, courier for the revolutionaries." Marcus frowned, leaning forward. "Great. What's that got to do with Miranda?" "I'm getting to that," Sarah said tightly, her patience thinning. "Jasper writes about storing weapons at the tavern. Black powder, cannons, anything the Continental Army needed. The tavern wasn't just a drinking spot, it was a hub for smuggling arms. But there were suspicions. Loyalists and informants were everywhere at the time, and anyone could endanger the operation." Lily stopped spinning the compass and gave Sarah a wary look. "You're saying Miranda was accused of being one of those spies?" "Exactly," Sarah replied grimly as she flipped to a bookmarked page and began reading aloud. "Rumors of espionage linger over the girl, Miranda, employed as a barmaid. Her presence here remain uneasy and all. I am loath to see her near our operations should she prove false." Sarah paused, her voice hardening. "Jasper planted those suspicions." "Wait!" Marcus straightened in his chair, his face darkening. "You're saying Miranda worked at that tavern to help the war effort, and Jasper made her out to be a traitor?" Sarah nodded, her voice cold. "He didn't just accuse her. He ensured those accusations stuck. There's an entry here written just days before she disappeared." She held up the journal, her expression taut with disgust. "Her loyalty in doubt, I have taken pains to see the threat removed. A rumor well placed shall suffice. That bastard got her killed." Lily's voice cut through the air, low but filled with anger. She set the compass down with a metallic clink, shaking her head. "He knew she wasn't a spy, didn't he?" Sarah flipped a few more pages, her mouth pressed into a thin line. "He doesn't outright say it, but it's written all over this journal. His main goal wasn't to protect the revolutionaries, it was to protect the tavern. Miranda was just an easy scapegoat." The temperature in the room seemed to drop, the air turning colder as Sarah's words landed. Marcus glanced over his shoulder uneasily, his hand reflexively brushing against the flashlight on his belt. "Anyone else feel that?" he muttered. "It's her," Lily said quietly, her voice taut. Her Her eyes flicked to the dark corners of the room, where shadows seemed heavier than they should have. She's here. A sudden gust of icy air swept through the room, scattering papers and rattling the lamp on the table. The glow flickered, and for a second, the room was plunged into darkness. Marcus was on his feet instantly, his heart thudding in his chest as he reached for his flashlight, but the light steady before he could grab it. "Sarah?" Marcus's voice was tight, his eyes locked on the far corner of the room. "Please tell me that was just bad wiring." But Sarah wasn't listening. Her eyes were fixed on the journal in her hands, her face pale as her fingers traced the edge of the page. The faint sound of a whisper drifted through the air, too soft to understand, but unmistakably nearby. "Vindicate." The word came clearer this time, wrapping around them like a cold breath. Lily grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself, her pulse racing. Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her attempt to sound calm. "Yeah, we heard it," Marcus said tensely. His flashlight still clutched in his hand, though he hadn't yet turned it on. What the hell does she want? Sarah swallowed hard, forcing herself to focus. "She wants justice," she said, her voice steadier than her shaking hands. "She wants us to uncover the truth and lay her to rest." "Fine," Marcus said, his jaw tight. "We know Jasper ruined her life, but how do we actually fix this? What does she need?" Sarah's gaze fell to the journal again, scanning the handwriting until she found the final entry. "Her body must remain unknown," she read aloud, her voice soft but weighted with horror. "No marker shall speak her name." She looked up, meeting their frightened stares. He made sure her body was never buried in hollowed ground. That's the key. If we can find her remains and consecrate them, we might be able to stop this. Another whisper rumbled through the room, low and keening. The draft grew colder, biting into their skins as the overhead lamp flickered again. Lily's hand shot out, grabbing Marcus's arm, and he instinctively shifted closer to her, his protective instincts kicking in despite his own fear. "Where do we even start?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Sarah admitted, her tone grim. "But we'll find her. We'll put this right." The room shuddered with a final, breathless chill before the oppressive presence lifted. The shadows receded slightly, and the lamp's flickering finally stopped. The three stood in silence, the weight of what they had just uncovered hanging heavy between them. Marcus exhaled loudly, breaking the tension. "This just keeps getting better," he muttered, glancing between Sarah and Lily. "Wherever this takes us next, we stick together. Agreed?" "Agreed," Sarah said firmly, closing Jasper's journal and tucking it under her arm. Lily nodded, her resolve hardening. "Together," she echoed. The trio gathered their things in silence, the faint echo of Miranda's whispers still lingering in the back of their mind as they stepped out into the cold night. The truth was unfolding, layer by painful layer, and they all knew that what lay ahead of them would test them like nothing before. But for now, they had each other, and a shared promise to see this through.